bright green pastures of the Xbox Bethesda deal and the Activision deal are slowly turning into a waking nightmare. Beloved studios like Tango Gameworks and Arkane Austin are now closed, and sadly none of this is a surprise to those of us who said acquisitions like this are never good for the consumer. In my latest video, I described it as an ongoing disaster. Be sure to check that out. It's right there on the thumbnail. This is not going well. I don't think it's going to get any better. And this is the follow-up live stream. So this is a longer video. And if you want to be here for these longer videos, live streams, and uploads, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And in the video that I'm telling you, you need to go watch it, I walk through the ZeniMax Bethesda acquisition, what motivated. I also look at the Activision Blizzard deal. I feel it's playing a role right now in how they're going to view future product, future studios. I then look at the layoffs and the studio closures that just happened. I end the video with my thoughts, okay? And then this is a great time for me to listen to the audience, because even this morning, we're now seeing concerns that Ninja Theory could be in trouble, like Hellblade 2 isn't being viewed as big enough for what Microsoft seems to want. So great company to work under. I'm sure everybody feels great. So be sure to check out the video. You can know what I think. And now it's time to hear what you think. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed that premiere. Thank you guys for dogpiling on those videos. I will even open up my my YouTube back end here, and I will check out some of the comments just to see what people are saying. So make sure you guys go through the morning ritual, smash that like button, and go through all of the things. We like to hear from you guys as well, so always remember to leave those leave those comments on those videos. It helps me, it helps you, like, right? You get seen on the channel, you're here more often. It'll probably increase your likelihood of getting gifted members, which there were already gifted members in the premiere. Thank you so much, SSJ Havoc, for gifting 5, and then Stonespire gifted 1. You guys currently have 136 for the week. The goal is 300 with a stretch goal of 400. I think you guys could hit both. So, let's get into it, right? Let's get into it this morning. Darius Ward and Joker Quinn, both gifting members. Well, Han shot first, and so did all of you. Joker, Quinn, and Darius, and Stonespire, and SSJ Havoc. SSJ Havoc was the shot first this morning, so thank you so much for doing that. Well, Lono covers the Ninja Theory closure. It will be a half-empty bottle of bourbon in one hand. I do think that everybody's waking up to the reality that everything we said, everything we warned about last year, it's like, oh, maybe they weren't fear-mongering. Maybe they were actually speaking truth. Maybe they weren't doing the astroturfing and the PR and the defend Team Green at all costs, right? The people that were doing that all look like a bunch of fools right now. All their crocodile tears or claiming they were never in support of these acquisitions is just a bunch of hogwash. Thank you, Lord Horg, for gifting a member and taking us to 9. I've continued to say, and I'll say it again, stop getting your information from people who are proven liars. Like, just stop. Get your information from people who just give you the facts. Now, sure, you can have your opinion on the facts or on the situation, but it's so clear now. It's like, do you honestly think that Microsoft cares about any of these studios or any of these pieces of property? If a game isn't big enough, if a game doesn't do well enough, then it's over. I also love the shifting goalposts of all last year we had to hear that sales don't matter and you would brag about player counts because that's what matters. And now you have the nerve. Some of you have the nerve to say, oh, well, Hi-Fi Rush didn't sell enough, so it's okay for the studio to close down. Well, I thought sales didn't matter. Excuse me. I thought sales didn't matter. If sales don't matter, then why are you justifying closing a studio because their game didn't sell well? How well do you expect a game to sell when you shadow drop it on Game Pass to begin with? Why do you even have sales expectations for Hi-Fi Rush? How brain dead is that? The fact that we were hearing that Hi-Fi Rush didn't hit sales targets, why would you even have sales targets for it? The truth is that Xbox doesn't know what they're doing. That's the fact of the matter. That's why I read that email from Phil. He's like, I couldn't tell you. I don't know how we measure the value of a game. Well, I guess they figured it out. Like we've always said, if you're not making games to be sold, then where's their value? How do you recoup cost? How do you justify reinvesting in the studio or future projects? You want to know who helped them figure it out? Microsoft helped them figure it out. You're not making any money. How do you expect to fund studio? Big Daddy Microsoft has a lot of money. Yeah, and look what Big Daddy Microsoft said. Shut the studios down. All y'all who defended all this stuff all last year, you should have to walk through town and have everybody yell shame at you, because this is quite literally what anybody with even a modicum of business acumen said would happen. You can't just keep dumping money on studios and projects and then throw them on Game Pass. Sales don't matter. And then you have the nerve to be like, well, they didn't sell enough, so it's okay to close the studio down. Stone Spire took us to 10 members. Thank you so much, Stone Spire, for a single gifted. And then Noberto comes in with 36 months. That's 3 years in a VIP. Says, as a longtime Xbox gamer, this just breaks my heart. I'm switching once the PS Pro drops. I can't keep waiting for positive change and seeing all the sad news taking over the industry. And then Lord Horg hits an entire year. Get him, Lono. Educate him. Lono cooking. I'm just getting started. This is just the appetizer. Like, I cannot believe the lack of shame, the lack of integrity. It's just absolutely staggering. It's like, to actually walk out into the public now and start acting like, well, the games didn't sell well enough, and I was never in support of these acquisitions. Dude, receipt pull these people like an angry grandma trying to return something to Target. Pull the receipts. Do it. That's a bit aggressive. I don't know that I'm ready to condemn the ABK acquisition based on this alone. Oh, they're just getting warmed up, Kirk. They're just getting warmed up. How is the ABK acquisition any different than this, Kirk? You want to know what the difference is? They have a greater gap to get to ROI. If they're going to do this to ZeniMax, you don't think they're going to do this to ABK Studios? You're dreaming if you think that this isn't going to happen to studios under ABK. Give me a break. The writing is on the wall. Anything that's not a blockbuster, anything that's not a major money maker or a big enterprise is done. It's done. Or they'll just absorb them into the Call of Duty machine. I mean, this isn't even the first thing. They already did 1,900 layoffs at ABK in January. Jiminy Christmas. Yo, Ken Nace with a Member Plus renewal. Thank you so much. It doesn't make any sense to have a company like Tango that can create good games to put on Game Pass, to sell on other platforms. It makes no sense to shutter that studio. It doesn't. It only makes sense if Microsoft has walked in the room and basically was like, you got to be this tall to ride this ride. You're not big enough. Your property doesn't sell well enough. You're done. Like, do you understand? Like, look at Tango Gameworks and what they could bring to the table and the value they could bring to your lineup, to your platform, and to the market, and you shut them down. I thought Microsoft had inexhaustible money. I thought their pockets were deep. They clearly are trying to save money. They're clearly trying to lower production costs, and they just shut down one of the better studios that they had. Like, what are you doing? Arkane Austin made Dishonored and Prey. What are you doing? You should have immediately moved them to something else, chalked up Redfall as a loss, gave people refunds on the Bite Back edition, and moved on to creating something of value. Maybe, Lono, I'm not really one to make assumptions on indications. It could certainly spell more trouble, but it's not conclusive that the acquisition will be catastrophic in that way. Well, I didn't say catastrophic. I said this is exactly the game plan going forward. Microsoft are corporate raiders, Kirk. They are not going to treat Activision Blizzard any differently. They're not going to treat any of their studios any differently than they just treated Tango and Arkane Austin. Arkane Austin helped with Dishonored. Yes, they did. They helped with Dishonored. Okay, they didn't make Dishonored, but you know what I'm saying. They helped with Dishonored. They made Prey. They can make good games. Like, what are we even talking about? ZeniMax asked them to make Redfall. I've always blamed that on ZeniMax. ZeniMax leadership asked a team that was well-versed in single-player games to make a multiplayer game. Yeah, Arkane Austin helped, so you can't act like they weren't a part of that. They bring good things to the table. You want to get persnickety and pedantic about the fact that, like, well, they aren't the ones that actually made it. You know, this other Arkane did. So be it, but come on. So is Xbox dead and Microsoft's in the henhouse? Prey was made by a team that wasn't in Austin anymore. I'm only as good as the information that I can get when I research things. And when I looked up and I said, what games have Arkane Austin made? I picked the two that I thought were the best out of the bunch. And I saw reports claiming that Arkane Austin had worked on Dishonored and had worked on Prey. That's not a team that you close down. That's not a team that you shutter. It doesn't make any sense. Tango Gameworks doesn't make any sense either. They were useless now? They weren't useless now. You just had to put them on a project that mattered. Xbox completely bumbled it. You can't walk out into the public and have Phil Spencer say, we did not absorb Arkane Austin in a good way. We didn't. He's like, we should have been better about when we brought them on board. They should have canceled Redfall, and they should have put Arkane Austin on something else. That's what they should have done. To act like, oh no, they shouldn't have done that. They should have shipped it anyway, and then what? Shut them down. Like, Phil Spencer literally walked out into the public, took ownership of how that was mishandled, expressed confidence in the team's next project, and then what'd they do? They made them keep working on Redfall, and then shut them down anyway? Like, how stupid is that? You mishandled the acquisition of Arkane Austin. You mishandled their first project that came to market by not actually looking at it. And then you close them down? It's all on Xbox at that point. They're shutting down studios they decided they don't need, but what's to say they didn't just move those devs to more productive studios or projects? They are moving some people. But they're not. Instead, they should have just kept the studios open and just established those as either support teams or something to that effect, like you have experienced, long-standing studios. Like, how long had Arkane Austin been around? They weren't some new studio. Both Tango and Arkane Austin were gutted before these studios closed. The head of Tango left with half the team. The second head moved back to the U.S. The Austin team, who was sim makers, left on Redfall. Okay, but you're not... Okay, let's imagine that that's why they were shuttered then, Wesley. Do you want to take a wild guess as to why all those people left? Do you remember last year we kept saying, man, Microsoft's got a serious problem here. They can't keep talent. Studios don't... You're losing creative directors every other week. And we kept trying to bring that up. And we kept being told that it was no big deal and we were just hating. If you're going to shutter studios because you have talent loss from the studios, maybe you should do some self-reflecting and ask why you keep losing people. Why do all your creative directors and staff keep walking out the dadgum door? This happened to the team working on Perfect Dark, didn't it? Like, people just left, a director left, creative director left. Now we're hearing the Perfect Dark's in bad shape. Gee, I wonder why. It's almost like companies under Microsoft's ownership don't flourish. It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating to watch studios and property get absolutely beaten to death, and then everyone's like, you want to blame the studio. The common denominator is Xbox. The common denominator is Microsoft. They can't keep talent. And then you're going to shut the studio down because people left? You should be asking why they left. You should be assessing that problem. Instead, you just shut the studio down. So now we get less stuff, we get less games, we get less talent, we get less product in the industry and in the market for the consumer to buy. A $20 super chat tip from the Game Night. I remember when Phil talked about Tango back when they acquired them. He was saying that he had great respect for them. He can't wait to go to Japan and meet them, and walked about and how they had a first-party presence in Japan. Yeah, well, I mean, good luck with that. The common denominator is Game Pass? No, the common denominator is Microsoft. The common denominator is Xbox. I don't think creative work can flourish and survive under Microsoft ownership. Their corporate policies are terrible. The way they treat the teams is awful. And I think you're going to constantly lose talent. And then what are you going to do? You're going to shut down studios because they're a shell of what they once were, instead of assessing what you're actively doing to the studios themselves before you get to the point that you decide they should be shuttered and shut down? Brap says the lack of governance at Xbox is a bit concerning because it's something we've seen as far back as dev issues with Halo Infinite. That's exactly right. We've also seen with Halo Infinite that half the staff was on a contract. Stop blaming Microsoft when they had the chance to deny the joining. Not if they're a publicly traded company, they can't do that. The board members and the shareholders will say you have to take a good offer. You'd have to justify turning it down, and that's really, really difficult when you're publicly traded. I'm not saying every single one of these were publicly traded, but ZeniMax probably didn't even have the opportunity to say no. I mean, Activision couldn't have said no either. When the offer's good and your shareholders and your shareholders and your board are going to say no, you have to take this deal. And I love that too. I love that. Stop blaming Microsoft. They could have said no. Is passive admittance that Microsoft is crap at this. And it's like, well, they just shouldn't have joined. Like, you literally just admitted that Microsoft sucks at gaming and they're terrible at the way they treat studios. And you're like, well, these developers should have known better. You literally just admitted that the core problem is Microsoft, even with your ridiculous comeback. Like, well, yeah, stop blaming Microsoft. These studios could have said no. Like, what? Robbie McKnight with 3 months of memberships. I hope the Tango devs team joins Sony now since they're a Japanese company. I just wished Sony would have bought Tango on their own. Brooklyn Breed with 12 months says, we made it to a year. I'm shocked the 343 is still around. Thank you for an entire year, Brooklyn. Lono, did you see Jez Corden say that he heard from some devs at Xbox that they didn't know what constituted success for a game? Of course they don't know what constitutes success for a game. Phil Spencer doesn't know what constitutes success for a game. He admitted it in an email. We learned that in the FTC. Phil's like, I don't have an Excel sheet to tell you what success looks like. Because basically, it was somebody was saying, I think it was a guy from another department. It was a guy from another department, and he was like, how do you judge the impact of a game when you put it on Game Pass? And Phil was like, I don't know. We're trying to figure it out. Now, I think the foreboding thing in that email was that they were working with Microsoft, what was it, economists or whatever it was? I forget what their title was. Basically, Phil was like, we're working with Microsoft to figure it out. Microsoft helped them figure it out. They did. They said, listen, you're devaluing everything you make. So we're going to help you figure this out. If something doesn't make enough money, it's gone. If a studio's not producing something big enough, it's gone. Microsoft walked in the room and said, we'll help you out, Phil. You don't need an Excel sheet. You don't. It's real simple. We're in the publishing world now. And if you're not making a product that can sell at high margin and make us our money back, you're done. So if you think studios are safe, if you think like when Arkane Leon said they were safe, yeah, you're safe if Blade does well. You're safe if Blade does well. Ninja Theory's safe if Hellblade 2 does well. They're going to kill any studio that doesn't crank out a blockbuster or make a ton of money. There's no reason to keep them at that point. Lone Wolf with 19 months in the VIP. 5 more months till the red badge. Let's go. Like I always say, I love this community. Thank you, Lono, for doing these shows. You're the best. Thank you, Lone Wolf. And Baker hits 33 months. Welcome back, Baker. Who is to blame for then Xbox kills the studio and physical sales because of Game Pass? I find the entire thing to be insulting. Just track the timeline here. Xbox buys ZeniMax because they don't want Starfield to go exclusive to PlayStation. They have Arkane Austin ship a game that they hope gets canceled. Arkane Austin doesn't even want to ship Redfall, and they throw it onto Game Pass. They have Tango Gameworks take an innovative, awesome, super creative, high-quality game, and they do the same thing. They throw it on Game Pass. You have the nerve to buy companies, throw their property on Game Pass, and then turn around and say, well, you're not generating enough money, so you're gone. Like, that's absolutely absurd. You bought the company. You took their property and put it onto Game Pass, which has cannibalized sales, according to the FTC. You guys can say all day long that it doesn't cannibalize sales. Look at what it's done. Look at what it's done to the platform. A completely failed strategy. The nerve to buy a company, take their property, put it on Game Pass, and then turn around and say, your game didn't sell enough. You missed sales targets. What the frick? What? You put our game on a subservice. What are you talking about? We tried to turn your pizza rolls into cat food, and the cats won't eat it, so you're all fired. Right. It's like, you did this. We didn't do this. Tango did their job. They made a great game. Now, Arkane Austin, you could say, well, they're a shell of what they once were, and Redfall was really bad, and they deserve to be shut down. You can say that, but ultimately, that again goes back to leadership. That I fault both ZeniMax and Xbox. ZeniMax and Xbox should be completely and utterly embarrassed for shutting down a studio that has touched and worked on property like Prey and Dishonored. It's like, what are you doing? They didn't want to make the game to begin with. They were hoping that it got canceled, and you shipped it anyway. That's on you. You're the publisher. A 5-spot from Joker Quinn. It feels like such a catch-22. Games have to sell well so the studios can survive, yet all first party goes to Game Pass where it won't sell. Which is why everybody always said it was an unsustainable strategy. We've said this for over a year, and we were always told that we didn't know what we were talking about and that sales didn't matter. It was all about engagement. It was all about player numbers. And everybody with even the most basic understanding of business were like, that doesn't make any sense. Where's the money coming from? You can't just eternally subsidize studios and then throw their games onto Game Pass. Like, that's not a viable business strategy. And I'm telling you, Microsoft went in the room and said, we're done with all of this. This is the dumbest thing. This is not going to work. You don't spend this kind of money to buy studios and recoup the cost on Game Pass. Like, there's no way. You're not going to make enough money. It's not a high margin market. That's why the CFO said the end of last year, he was like, we're moving into high margin markets. Why? Because they don't have a high margin market. I need to tighten this. There we go. This thing is like constantly readjusting itself. What did Kirk say? He said, I'm very upset about these closures. I just think the pivot to therefore ABK acquisition is definitely bad. Doesn't make logical sense. It's purely speculative, and they will also close ABK Studios. It's about as strong as your position, Kirk, because you're speculating that they won't. I at least have reason to think that they will. You have no reason to think they won't close studios. You have literally no reason to think that they won't close ABK Studios or shutter projects or absorb entire teams into just supporting Call of Duty. I actually have reason, logical reasons. You're saying it's not logical? How is it not logical to think, well, if they're going to shutter studios that aren't generating enough money from a smaller acquisition, it's pretty logical to think they're going to do the same thing with the larger acquisition because the ROI is so significantly larger and needed on something that costs that more money. Also, ABK is the accelerant to the strategy, according to Phil Spencer. They're putting that strategy into play right now. So I think your speculation or presumption that they won't close ABK Studios is actually the less logical position because it's not even rooted in the existing pattern we can see. This is what companies do when they go through acquisitions. You gut, you trim, you shut down, you lay off. Your position's not logical because it's not even rooted in business history. It's like the history of business told us all this was going to happen. And everybody closed their eyes and shook their head and said, no, it's not. No, it's not. This is going to be better for the industry. More games for more people. You just got less games in the market this week. 4 studios gone. That means less content. That means less games, less talent. Is that good for the consumer? You cheering for that? A 10 spot from Val. The problem with Game Pass and why it's terrible for devs is it turns the business model from a profit share into a one-time transactional fee. Great for indies, bad for established devs. But even indies started saying it wasn't always good for them. It was good for some, but not good for all. It's not a universal thing. There were indies that went on Game Pass that said it wasn't good for them. Blade's going to do well, says Detective Seeds. We will buy it on PlayStation. Thank you for the 5 spot, Detective Seeds. Eugene says, Microsoft has a 20-year history of mismanaging studios and IP. Why would ABK be any different? Another great point to say, nothing I'm saying is illogical. It's not. The pattern is clear. It's so clear. You can see it. You can see studios come underneath Microsoft ownership. You have talent loss. You have people leave. You get a bad product. And then what happens? Like, look at what happened to 343. 343 can't keep talent, can't keep people. Game's on crisis mode. They bring in Joseph Staten to actually get the product out the door, and they barely do that. And then what do? They lay people off from 343. They do a hiring freeze. They EOL Halo Infinite. And now, thank goodness, they're going to try to rebuild. They're like, okay, we're going to try to build the next Halo. 343 is now no longer under a hiring freeze. They did that to Halo. What do you think they're going to do to all these other companies and all these other pieces of property? If they're willing to do that to Halo, I got news for you. The only reason 343 is around is because they're attached to Halo. If they were not attached to Halo, they would not be around any longer. Because there'd be no reason. Didn't Joseph Staten leave? They put him somewhere else. They moved him. Another factor is ABK was such a dumpster fire with Kotick at the helm, work culture-wise, artistry-wise, etc. I just don't see how we can render a verdict with no ABK closures yet. Sounding alarms, yes. I'm not rendering a verdict. I'm saying, don't kid yourself. This will likely happen again. That's just a prediction. That's just a prediction. Like, I don't know. We predicted this would happen. Kirk, like, I'm on my 10th victory lap this year on this is probably going to happen, guys. You know, when companies spend this kind of money, it doesn't benefit the consumer. It doesn't benefit the employee. People will lose their jobs. Studios will close down. Projects will get shuttered. And here we sit. My legs are tired from the victory laps I've had to run this year. So yes, I'm making another prediction. There'll be ABK studios that get closed down. There'll be ABK property that gets shuttered and projects that don't come to market. Why? Because that's the road to ROI when you spend that much money. The pattern is set in the industry, in the world, in the market. When you spend this much money, that's how you quickly recoup it. How many companies have you seen purchase that don't go through this? None. Every time a company gets purchased at this size, they trim it. Oh, they trim so much. And I'll do you one better. Laying off 1,900 people from Activision Blizzard, that's roughly like 8 studios worth of companies. Like, that's like 8 studios worth. 1,900. Come on. You think they're going to lay off that many people and not also revisit this and reconsider? That project's got no future. Just shut that studio down. The Blizzard survival game was already canceled and it was in development for 4 to 5 years. Thank you, Mediocre Milton. Another game that's not going to come to market. You know, post-merger. I miss a 12 months from Brett Williams. When you buy IP instead of creating, there's no passion. It's why every property is run into the ground by Xbox. The IP is there to be wrung out. That's exactly right. Eugene says, they completely crapped on Rare. They shuttered Lionhead. Bungie ran away as fast as possible. Epic wanted out so bad they gave Microsoft their abandoned their best IP since Unreal Tournament. Talent runs from Microsoft, and Microsoft ruins the talent that stays. That's excellently stated, Eugene. You don't think they're going to shutter ABK. You don't think there's a pattern. This is what Microsoft does. This is what Xbox does. This is why for a very long time, the more I looked into the history of the company and the more I looked into their decisions, I was like, they're bad for gaming. They're really bad at this. They're extremely bad at this. A 5 spot from Cyberpunk Gameplay says, Let's also not forget that Microsoft convinced the court that they would be hands-off with their studios. Yeah, they didn't know that when they said they'd be hands-off with the studios, they meant that quite literally. We're literally going to let them go. We're literally going to shut them down. Captain Toasty Buns with 29 months. Guys, make sure you are smashing the like button. There is almost 1,000 people here. If you have never been here before, I am a safe for work broadcaster, so you can hit subscribe, you can hit the bell button in confidence, knowing that you can watch the show and listen to the show throughout the week, throw it in the background. You don't got to worry about the language I'm going to use because I am safe for work. 8-Bit Dad with 14 months and a member plus, and Patrick Q gifts a member and takes us to 11. If you want to support the channel directly, you can do it with the membership. That is the reason I'm able to do this full time. I do this show and an upload Monday through Friday. Guys, heads up, I will be out of town next week, okay? Streams will resume the week after, the week that Hellblade 2 comes out. So we'll be able to play that. So make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you hit the bell button. Take 2 seconds. Take 2 seconds. There's 1,000 of you here. Take 2 seconds and double check that like button has been pressed and that it saved your like. A 5-spot from Vol says, World of Warcraft will be fine. Overwatch, however, is dead, and it will probably be a warning to the Diablo team. I could see the reallocation of resources at ABK. And Jordan Lanham gifts a member and gets us halfway to 25. The goal this week is only 300 members. You guys are already basically halfway there. You have 136 plus 12 is 148. You're basically at the halfway part, okay? And if you go beyond that and hit 400 members, I got to fight Moog in Elden Ring on Friday night before going on a week of vacation. So Moog is a terrible fight that I don't want to do. You guys will like that. You'll like me not being able to play or having to play a game that I don't like. Are we going to praise the layoffs next year when the studios blossom from ex-devs leading to new IPs? It will happen. Okay. Hadigan, if good comes from bad, you don't praise the bad, homie. Do you know what I'm saying? If something bad happens to you, if you're wrongfully fired and mistreated, and then you land a better job a week later, you don't go back and say, hey, you did a good thing. You should wrongfully fire more people. That kind of logic is so absolutely backwards. You can show appreciation from good coming out of bad. You can say, I'm thankful that good came from this, but you don't go back and shake the hand of the person that, like, I don't know, made you lose your arm or lost your job. You're not like, oh, give me more of that. Good came from the bad, so the bad's now good. Stone Spire gifts 3 members in a row. I know what Stone Spire's doing. He's setting up somebody to slam home the 10-bomb dunker. Thank you, Stone Spire. In a 6th spot, gift super chat from I'm the One Who Knocks says the CEO of Ninja Theory already left the studio. How do you think that turns out? I don't even want to think about Ninja Theory. I swear to frick. If that company gets closed down, I'm going to be so angry. I am going to be so angry. If Ninja Theory is hurt by any of this, I'm already worried about Hellblade 2 and the timeline, and I don't feel like they've had enough time to build it. I am super, super worried about Hellblade 2 and Ninja Theory. I swear I will be so freaking angry. Oh, my word. And Rabbit with 15 months of memberships and a VIP says, it's crazy how people can see a pattern of behavior and still say, no, they won't do that. It makes no sense. I'm seeing that on my timeline this morning. People are concerned about Ninja Theory, and I'm like, don't you do that. Don't you put that bad juju out there. I love Hellblade 1. It's my all-time favorite game. Oh my gosh. Even Matty Plays is completely over it. Never thought I'd see that. I mean, I think that's going to be... Thank you so much, DK Bager, for gifting a member. He sets up the 16 out of 25. That's an Agent of Chaos 10-bomb now. Thank you so much, DK Bager. Why haven't we seen any promotion for Hellblade 2? It's coming out in 2 weeks. That can't be a good sign. I don't know. The marketing for Hellblade 1 was kind of weird too. I'm not really sure. Again, I'm trying not to put bad juju out there. I'm really hoping that I can play Hellblade 2 on my computer and have a good time. I'm the One Who Knocks with a 5-bomb of members and takes us to 21 on the day. Thank you so much. You guys have now passed the halfway mark of the weekly goal of 300 for this week. Two Spot from True 80 says, I can't believe people are defending the closure. Well, listen, the people that spent a good portion of last year defending the acquisitions, defending Xbox, saying now's Xbox's time, and a 5-bomb comes in from Shiny Red Flag. That is an agent of chaos. That takes us to 26. I now owe you guys 5 members, and the next milestone will be 50, and I'll owe you 5 more. Heatwave with 8 months says, Lono, Xbox have no talent or identity. Piss poor leadership. Phil, Sarah, Matt, trash marketing for the console of games. And then Garrett Green says, Phil, Bond, and Booty have been dead silent since this happened. Absolute cowards. I'll tell you why they're silent. They are not in charge. That's why they're silent. I think Phil is probably sitting there thinking, I can't wait to get out of here. There's no way. Like, I think when Phil, listen to me now, I think when Phil said he believed in the next project that Arkane Austin was going to work on, I believe when Aaron Greenberg said that they saw great things from Hi-Fi Rush and it hit all these great metrics, I don't think they were being dishonest. I think that was their outlook. I think Satya Nadella walked in the room and said, sit down and be quiet. I'm calling the shots now. These studios, done. These games, get them on the other platforms. We're a publisher now. I'm the captain. Whatever you all thought you were going to do with these little piddly studios and these little piddly pieces of property, they're done. Shut it down. We're in the business of making big games and making money. That's what we're in the business of doing. Matt Booty said during the Xbox podcast, he said that, now you can have one game that's larger than a single platform. That's where their mind's at. They want the big, big games. That's what they're focused on. I'm telling you, I've said this so many times. If you go back to the Famitsu article where Phil Spencer said that things had changed, and when he was asked what had changed, he mentions Minecraft. Minecraft is the catalyst to all of this. They saw a gigantic game, and then when it was published everywhere, they made tons of money. They don't care about these smaller projects that are more risky, that are less likely to generate massive amounts of revenue and return of investment. They're not interested in that anymore. They want the big giant titles. Minecraft is the catalyst to everything that is happening right now. JB with a 5 spot says, shout out to the mystery person who gifted me a membership. I just saw it in my inbox yesterday. Well, welcome in, JB, and thank you for the super chat. If you guys are ever like, hey, I can afford my own membership, you can upgrade to Member Plus. It's $1 more, and then you're paying for your own membership, or you can pay it forward and gift to another person. Keenan with 16 months of membership says, Phil really cleaned house. I don't think this was Phil's call. I don't think this was Phil's call. I don't. This has Microsoft written all over it. It really does. If you go back to when Phil was talking about the ZeniMax acquisition, he's talking about getting more games to go where Game Pass lives. He's still reading out of the old playbook back when ZeniMax was purchased. And I think Microsoft walked in the room and said, no, it's time for a change of plans. Like, what Phil was working toward, what Phil was working for, that's all done. It's over. The era of Phil Spencer has come to a close. He just hasn't left the company yet. I mean that. I'm serious. His era, his time, his attempt at this, look, respect where respect is due. Phil Spencer kept Xbox in the ring. They didn't fight all that well, but they're still standing on their own 2 feet barely. He kept them in the ring, and it's time for him to leave. He's done. His plan is no more. And Satya Nadella has been running and has been at the helm of the single most successful software company in the world, and they're going to bring that strategy to bear on gaming. Which is why, from the beginning of all of this, I said, I don't want Microsoft to own more studios. They're not good for creative process. They're utilitarian, and they brute force, and they ship things that aren't ready. They cannibalize and they shut down tech and they shut down projects if it doesn't make enough money, whether it's a phone or a streaming platform like Mixer. Like, that's just the way companies of that size have to operate. They can't afford to indulge, like, if they don't feel like the phone's making money, if they don't feel like Mixer's making money, they can't indulge that. They're too big. They're like, I'll just kill it. It's easier to kill it. And that's why creatives, and that's why creative directors, that's why studios run from Microsoft. Because that's what Microsoft is. They are corporate raiders. This is what they do. This is their plan of action. You buy, you take off all the pieces that you don't want, you gut, and then you're going to take every piece of property that you think is worth the most money, and you're going to squeeze the dickens out of it. And then when they're done with it, those studios are gone. Once they've decided they've gotten their worth out of you, you are gone. I said this a year ago, almost to the date. 1 year ago in April, I said, how long do you think Arkane Austin's going to last? I said, this is the strategy going forward. You squeeze a game out of a company, and then you just toss them to the curb, because that's a fantastic way to get ROI. I'll tell you what they're doing. I need to thank Fat Jay for his $5 tip. Have any of the company's games made money? Redfall certainly is not. It's not a charity. Make games that people want to play, not DEI Productions. Take that freaking crap and take a walk. I don't want to hear from people like you. Go away. If I could refund your money, I would. Don't even bring that crap here. I don't even want to hear that. That is not why these companies have been shut down. That is not why these companies didn't make money. Go red pill somewhere else. Frick. I'm telling you what Microsoft is doing. They are treating these companies like contract workers. That's what they're doing. Oh, thanks so much for this work that you did. Bye. You're done. You're out. They're treating these companies like a contract worker. That's what they're doing. It's like, You thanks for the game. We're going to sell it. We're going to make money on it. You know, we'll throw on Game Pass. We'll do whatever. We don't need your services anymore. We don't need your services anymore. Go away. Of course it is. Go get woke, go broke. No, we're not doing that today. You're not bringing that nonsense false narrative into my chat. I'm not indulging you. So anybody that pushes that from this point on, it's a 24-hour timeout. I do not want to engage with you guys that are going to run this false nonsense of like, these games didn't make money because they went woke. That is absolute BS. That has no business analysis. There's no logic behind it. There's no reason behind it. Hi-Fi Rush didn't make enough money because they shadow dropped it on Game Pass. Redfall didn't make enough money and was a disaster because the company didn't want to make it. If you can't properly assess and diagnose what is happening, then don't pretend to. It's frustrating for the rest of us that have been watching this transpire for a couple of years. I don't need your armchair, misinformed, Reddit on Reddit information about why you think these games have failed. Take that and go somewhere else with it. I don't want you here. I get so tired of dealing with people like you. It's frustrating. It really is. I'd rather argue with a child about a cat having 9 lives. It would be more entertaining. Keep that nonsense out of here. These games and the reason that these games struggled and didn't work well is for everything that we said last year. We constantly said this is not how you treat property. Like, do you remember when Jeff Grubb said that he had heard that Hi-Fi Rush didn't hit sales targets? Do you remember what I said at the time? I was like, why do you have sales targets for a game on Game Pass? Why do you have, what's the point of that? James Tiberius Kirk with a 20 spot. Yo, Lono, it's been a minute. Been gaming. Finished Armor Core 6. Just finished Stellar Blade. Played Elden Ring for the 6-time DLC queued. PS5 Pro and Switch on the Horizon. Xbox who? Hey, chat. Yo, thanks so much for that, James Tiberius Kirk. Very generous super chat. Yesterday you said you like when people disagree with you. Yes, I like when people disagree with me. I don't enjoy indulging in falsehood. So take your falsehood somewhere else. I don't like wasting time batting down things that aren't true. If you have an opinion, share your opinion about how good Redfall was or how great Hi-Fi Rush was or whatever. I don't want you coming in with nonsense platitudes that have nothing to do with the discussion, okay? I don't want that in my chat. If you came in and tried to bring in a religious or political discussion, I would say the same thing. I thought you liked disagreement. There are elements of the gaming world narrative right now that I have zero interest in engaging with it. It's just a bunch of nonsense. I disagree, therefore it's false. No, it's false. It's a false claim. These games failed because of the way that they were set up from a business structure. That's why they failed. If you're going to try to argue that Redfall and Hi-Fi Rush failed because they're woke, you are a stupid person. And I want you to feel that as an insult, because it is an insult. If you truly think that, you're stupid. Like, there's no niceties, there's no politeness. These games failed for completely different reasons. Redfall was a disaster. They shipped it with stickers about 60 FPS coming later. They shipped it with, like, bugs and glitches, and it barely ran. Hi-Fi Rush was a breakout hit, but they put it on Game Pass. They put it on Game Pass. Like, they said internally that they don't even have a way of measuring a game's success. Like, they don't even have a way of measuring. Like, Phil Spencer says in an email, he's like, we don't even have a way of doing this. We haven't figured it out yet. That's why these games didn't do well. It was just some big giant experiment. It was like, yeah, we buy games and we throw them on Game Pass. We don't really know what success looks like, though. Like I said, Microsoft helped them figure it out. Like, Microsoft helped them figure it out. They walked in the room and said, we'll help you figure out how you determine if something's successful or not. It's really easy. Warren H. with a $5 super chat tip. Steve Jobs said the problem with Microsoft is they lack creativity, and not in a small way, but in a big way. Yeah, I remember that quote. And it rings true today. It really rings true today. Carlos Fontes with a $5 super chat tip says, thank you for keeping the discussion on track and shutting down the toxic idiots arguing with culture war nonsense talking points in bad faith. Yeah, I'm so over that. I'm so over that. Like, we did this last year. Like, anytime I tried to talk about Activision Blizzard, I had to deal with a bunch of astroturfed, like, bleed green people that did nothing but say things that weren't true. And it's just exhausting. And if you want to come in here from the fires of a gaming culture war that you've been waging on Twitter, always free Stellar Blade. Just shut up. Like, no one even remotely pays attention to you. You've had no impact on anything, and you just frustrate people trying to have a real conversation. I genuinely have no interest in talking to people that are doing that. It's just frustrating. It's a giant waste of time. Skull and Bones was too woke because woke rhymes with boat, says Kirk with a 2 spot. Listen, like, you're a boat, Kirk. You're a boat, okay? Like, you're a boat, bro. That was a good Boss Nash impression. That's right. Misa thinks you're an idiot. Oh. There are larger things at play here. Right? There are larger things at play. No Impact looks at Helldivers. Yeah, that wasn't a culture war. That was a consumer response to something that they didn't want to have happen in the game. That's not the same. Go tell me what the petition for Stellar Blade accomplished exactly. What? Oh, it's got the highest Metacritic user score of the year. Oh. It's got a great score on PlayStation. Oh, okay. Wow, what an impact. 10 spot from James Tiberius Kirk. Redfall, quite the ironic title. And Stone Spire's going to come in and set it up. I know what Stone Spire's doing, guys. He's going to do 4 signals. Somebody help this man out. He's going to walk us all the way to 30. He's begging somebody to drop a 20 bomb on chat. You the man, Stone Spire. Lono, Kirk is coming on my podcast to review Stellar Blade. Have you figured out how to slow him down yet? You quite literally just have to interrupt him. But you can't just interrupt him once. It usually takes 2 or 3 times. You know what I'm saying? It's like when you try to stick something in the spokes of a tire. He's going so fast that like the first couple of times you try to jam a stick in there, it just goes ka-foom, ka-foom. Like you really gotta interrupt a couple of times. You know, it's it's an art form that I have not quite yet mastered. It really is. No, he's actually getting better. He'll take cues if you clear your throat or go to interrupt. He's getting better. He's getting better. We love Kirk here. We do. Alapark with 21 months and a VIP says the email about the closures is telling. Blockbuster Games, Microsoft only wants to make Call of Duty, Fallout, Warcraft, Diablo, Elder Scrolls, etc. That's it. Thank you for 21 months, Alapark. And then one gifted from DK Bager. DK Bager always loves to put the little cherry on top of what Stone Spire works on because he wants the 20 bomb to be an agent of chaos. Appreciate you, DK Bager. And then Eugene comes in with 32 months and says 32 months, about the same amount of time Tango lasted under Microsoft. Oh, that's cold. So basically, Xbox is Microsoft Gaming. I mean, I've had people theorize that they're going to drop the name Xbox, and I just don't think that that's the case. I don't think that that's true. Give me 2 seconds. My Ethernet cable wasn't plugged in for my my rig. The difference, Donnie, gets to edit the recording, so he just cuts out my entire diatribe. That's right. He'll just cut it out. That's right. Oh, my gosh. Where's the marketing for Hellblade 2? I mean, that's now the new concern. Like, Jez Corden said it. He's like, how can we even trust Microsoft or Xbox at this point? How can you even trust them? He's like, what... And now Jez Corden is not the only one, but many people are like, well, what's going to happen to Ninja Theory? Hellblade 2 doesn't seem like the kind of game that falls under what Matt Booty talked about, big franchises and blockbusters and things like that. It's like, if that's what they're interested in. Let's read some of the comments on this on the video. I'm going to scroll all the way down to some of the first people that commented on my video this morning. Good. No, there's a lot of things. This guy says... Josh Todd says, if you can't beat them, buy them, and then shut them down, apparently. And then shut them down! If you can't beat them, buy them, and then shut them down when they don't generate enough money because you threw their best work onto Game Pass. Do you guys remember during the FTC trial when Jim Ryan said that the publishers he had spoken to agreed that Game Pass was value destructive? How can you not see that ringing true right now? When your highest rated game of 2023, it won awards, it apparently is good enough to bring to PlayStation and Nintendo, and you shut the studio down. Right? You shut the studio down. If you think about that for a second. That right there proves that Game Pass is value destructive. It quite literally destroyed the value of a studio and their best work. Not their best work, some of their best work. Like, come on. I don't see how anybody agrees to be bought by Microsoft at this point. Sony has their issues, but at least they give you more room. Well, okay, so here's the problem, Adam. Here's the problem. ZeniMax is who was purchased. Okay? You basically have parent companies that have this is the gigantic problem with this. So ZeniMax is the parent company, and the decision makers and the executives and the C-suites and the board and whoever decided to accept the purchase, they all benefit. There's no downside for them. They're all fine. And the same thing reigns true for Activision Blizzard King. ABK, the people that benefited were Lulu Chang and Bobby Kotick. Like, those are the people that benefited. You can talk about the bad culture under Bobby Kotick all you want. That guy is grinning ear to ear right now. He got the frick out. I'm out of here. This is a disaster. And now they're being fined for like patent infringement or something. Like, what a frickin' money pit ABK's turning out to be. Like, the people that make the decision, you guys are like, oh, all these studios, they should have known better. They should have known better. And it's like, they're not the ones that made the decision. The parent companies did. ZeniMax made the decision to sell to Microsoft. It's why Sony buys smaller studios and then invests in them. Yeah, it's a healthier relationship to be like, hey, you made a great game, let's buy the developer and let's work with the developer. Not some giant conglomerate of collection of studios. Looking back at Monday, do you have confidence that Avowed will not be another Redfall? Yeah, I think Kirk's going to get to take a victory dance on that one. Everything coming out now. Like, do you have like, okay, are there any, I know there's bleed green guys in the chat right now. Okay. I know some of you are in the chat right now. Most of you are, maybe you're hate watching. I know a ton of you are probably getting clips because it's the only way you can make content. But to the rest of you that are bleeding green, how much confidence do you even have in the games coming from them now? Like Indiana Jones and Hellblade 2 and Avowed. Like I can't. Can you imagine being a team working under Xbox now? Yeah, we got rid of these studios because we want to focus on these bigger pieces of property. And you're probably thinking to yourself, well, what if our game's not big enough? A game can make enough money and do fine and still not be at the thresholds of some of these other Leviathan like monolithic like titles like Call of Duty. Like, are we on the chopping block now? Are we in trouble? I invested so much into Xbox, and I'm not confident at all in them anymore. You better perform or you're fired. Actually, you may get fired anyway. Sorry, pal. That's what I'm saying. Remember, PlayStation closed 4 studios. What about isms? What about isms, dude? That's it. But Sony. Yeah, they closed a studio that had one of the highest rated games last year. It's totally equivalent. I fear for the studios, to be honest. Share Bruce Lee's telling Kirk to start stretching for his victory lap. That's right. Is your game making COD numbers? No? Then I hate to be you right now. That's what I'm saying. Like, so think about it like this. If you're Microsoft and you're looking at how many studios you bought, it makes perfectly good sense to say, we need to cut every bottom performer from this. We only need the big earners. That's their goal. Their goal is not to have... I want you to really think about this. I do. I really want you to think about this. Their goal is not to have this cascade of developers. Their goal is to have the biggest property so they can make the biggest profits. You don't make tons of profit on smaller games and smaller projects. They devalued that when they stopped giving good offers to indie titles for Game Pass anyway. The employees probably don't start sweating until Aaron Greenberg praises them on social media. Guys, I got really bad news. Aaron Greenberg said on Twitter that our game is a huge success, so everyone update your resumes. Clock's ticking. It appears that Shinji Mikami took most of the Tango Gameworks staff with him to his own new studio. Now things are making sense. Oh, as to why Tango shut down. Yeah, the question would be, why did he leave and why was he able to take so many people with him? A 5-spot from John Lee. The fact that there is still no marketing for Hellblade 2 and it's in like a week or two is telling, in my opinion. Let me make sure I didn't miss any super chat or any gifteds. I did not. Okay. More comments here on the upload. Xbox desperately needs to stop talking. My gosh, the volume of articles and tweets that are now burning them. If they shred Fable, I'd be PO'd. I'm not confident in anything coming from them. I'm not confident in anything coming from Xbox now. It's like, everything could be in this state of just get it out the door so we can make money on it, and then we'll shut you down. Hi-Fi Rush was just rated for Nintendo. If that thing comes to Nintendo Switch, which when you get rated, like they rate your game at the ESRB, it means there's a playable version of your game. That means there's a playable version of the Nintendo version of Hi-Fi Rush. Conveniently, that happened like a week or two ago, and now the studio's gone. Carlos Fontes with a $5 super chat tip says, I love Xbox as a brand and ecosystem, but this pivot to first and third party is kind of up there to the Xbox One launch, in my opinion, real muddled. Yeah, Hellblade's releasing in 13 days. That's correct. Oh my gosh. The upload from this morning, thank you guys so much for supporting that. That video is absolutely crushing. Everybody that dogpiles on those premieres at 9:30 every morning, you really help me out. I know you guys prefer the live environment, but when you take the time to watch that premiere every morning, that is a huge support to me. Thank you for doing that. It really means a lot. We're putting a lot of work into those uploads. It's new territory for me. I'm not an uploader, and I appreciate the support very much from you guys. Jacob Bible with a $5 super chat tip says, to my knowledge, Xbox hasn't shut down studios without parent companies. Obsidian and Ninja Theory should be fine. Could always be wrong. Scary times. I mean, they may be just starting with their bigger purchases, Jacob. Like, look, think about what they're doing. They're combing over the ZeniMax acquisition. They did some layoffs last year, not a ton at Bethesda. And then this year they're assessing, okay, before we, start thinking about the next fiscal year, let's do a threshing floor cleanup here. Then they're going to look at ABK and they're going to do the same dadgum thing. I think smaller purchases like Ninja Theory and Obsidian, they're likely less concerned. That could be a silver lining for Obsidian and Ninja Theory. They're likely less concerned with those purchases right now because they're not as significant. They're not as big. That's why I look at ABK and I'm like, there's no way they don't do the same thing to ABK. It's such a gigantic purchase. One of the fastest ways to fast track your ROI is to cut production. If you're like, yeah, if we cut 20% of our annual production by closing these studios, that's a lot of money saved. Because they're going to do projections. They're like, how much money can we really make from these smaller teams and smaller studios? How much? And they weigh it and they say, it's not worth it. They're like, that profit margin's a drop in the bucket. It's better for us just to cut the production costs annually. Just get them out of here. That's the fact that, like, my dad went through a buyout and they almost went through a second buyout. And the reason they almost went through a second buyout is because this is essentially what happens is a company comes in and buys the, the business. Let's say they came in and bought the place. My dad's retired now. So let's say when he worked there, they come in and the valuation of the company is $1 billion, and they buy the company for $1 billion. Okay, they're like, this is great. They look at their annual revenue generation, and they look at the profits, and they say, we can immediately make more money annually if we lower production and widen the profit margin. It's a faster way of making the money back that you just spent. Right? If you're like, okay, the company generates this much money annually and the profit margin is this big. We can make the profit margin bigger and therefore have more profit in the bank and have more profit towards the ROI of this investment by shrinking the company. And that's exactly what they did. As soon as they came in, they gutted entire departments. They're like, you're not needed, you're not needed, you're not needed, you're not needed. And they save all that money immediately. Now, they almost sold the company again. Why? Well, because when you do that, you can then have a higher valuation as a company. Now, instead of the company being valued at like $1 billion, it might be rated or valued at $1.7 billion or $1.5 billion. they're able to say, hey, we were able to widen profit margins by a significant amount, and everything is still humming along, and now the valuation of this company is higher because it's operating at a greater profit margin. Therefore, we can now sell it and make the money back and then some. It's like flipping a house. It's just instead of investing in the house's quality, these businesses, they just gut them so that they generate more money. Or they generate more profit, I should say. Hattigan Matter with a $5 super chat tip says, I wonder how the FTC ending the non-compete clause will hurt Xbox. Devs may not be locked in and could easily leave without harm. I mean, Jim Ryan said in that one email, he's like, they're going to have massive talent exodus. They're going to have a management problem on their hand. And I think he's right. I think you're going to see, I think what just happened is a bit of a starter pistol. I think a lot of people are going to say, dude, I'm getting the heck out of here. I have no confidence in working for Microsoft. They're going to create talent exodus. Cameron Odom with 14 months says, I can see Obsidian getting rolled into BGS support studio to work on Fallout and Elder Scrolls. Yeah, possibly. Yeah, probably, Creature. I would think with the results we're getting. The FTC should step in after these many layoffs. The FTC has no say in that. That's not what they regulate. They can't come in and say, oh, you're doing too many layoffs. Layoffs? Like, that's not... The FTC was taking up for the consumer, and the FTC was saying that the consumer would have less choice in the market. Well, that's a real quick way to get less choice. Just have fewer studios and fewer products coming to the marketplace. There's less things for you to buy. I want you to really think about all of the people last year that told you this was going to be good for the consumer and this was going to be good for the market. And the rest of us said, nope, acquisitions of this size, historically and almost universally, never benefit the consumer. And if you go back and you look at all the predictions that were made on this channel or any other channel that was against these levels of acquisitions, it's like, well, yeah, this is exactly where we said these types of things would end up. Imagine after Avowed, Xbox cancels Outer Worlds 2 and tells Obsidian to work on the next Fallout. Jack, if you don't think that's a real possibility, you might be typing that as like a off-the-cuff remark, but that is a very real possibility. When we covered Fallout 5, I said that. I said Microsoft is going to throw blood and bodies at this. They're going to try to get a Fallout game out the door. The Fallout TV show is massively popular. They're going to want to capitalize on that. They're not going to just sit and let Bethesda build it after they're done with Elder Scrolls the Elder Scrolls 6. You're kidding yourself if you think that Microsoft's going to sit by and let that happen. Who do you think they'll appoint for Fallout if Bethesda is tied up with Starfield and Elder Scrolls? I mean, yeah, Jack just put it in the chat. If Microsoft is in the room and they're assessing greatest opportunity for profit, they're going to be looking at Fallout 5 and saying that has a far better chance than the Outer Worlds 2. Seriously, think about it. And this is why I kept saying last year, stop looking at Xbox and start looking at Microsoft. Microsoft doesn't care. They don't. Will Sony buy up the Tango talent? I'm not sure. The Tango talent will probably try to go to the former head of Tango. They'll probably try to go work for him. Obviously on a different channel. What did Scott Free say? I know some would keep it, but you know how a lot of people are. They'd be angry that something is being taken away. It needs to be Obsidian to help make Fallout. I mean, I could see them being tapped to help for sure. With the way current leadership has been handling things the past 10 years, I have little to no confidence with Xbox, says Delta. Two studios that could make Fallout under Xbox, Obsidian and inXile, take your pick. They'll throw both of them at it, Jack. That'd be my guess. You're going to need a lot of people. You're going to need a lot of bandwidth if you want to get Fallout 5 turned out in 4 years, roughly. I don't think they're going to accept anything less than that. I cannot see waiting longer than 4, maybe 5 years for Fallout 5. Fallout at the moment is more popular with casuals than Elder Scrolls. Really massive popular because of the show. Friends that don't play are now playing Fallout 4. Right, that's what I'm saying. They're going to look at all those reports and all those numbers, and they're going to say, listen, we need to capitalize on that. Mash says, stop snooping on my convos. I was like, what are you guys talking about? He was talking about being banned on another channel for saying PlayStation Plus is a good value. Oh. Could we see a court hearing since the FTC and Jim Ryan mentioned that Game Pass was having problems like you mentioned before? What would the court hearing even be about, though? You can't sue Microsoft or Xbox for doing things that you don't like. You can't sue them for being like, hey, we really liked that studio. And they'd be like, okay, so it's ours. We can do with it what we please. I don't think there's not a road where there's some kind of a recompense, you know, to stop them from doing from doing what they're doing. You can be like, hey, how dare you? Cameron Odom with a $2 super chat tip says Microsoft is the man behind the curtain. And MASH with the 20 bomb does it. It was set up a long time ago, and he answers the call and takes us to 51. Did I gift the 5 that I owed you guys for the first? If not, I owe you guys a 10 bomb. Let me check fan funding. Am I back here on the back end? I don't think I've done it yet. No. I owe you guys a 10 bomb. That's amazing, MASH. Thank you. All right, here's the 10 that I owe. Let's celebrate. That takes you guys to 51 of the 136. 187. You guys have 187 members on the week. 300 is the goal for the dancing VR game that I'll have to play on Friday night, but we'll switch to Elden Ring, and I'll have to fight the really frustrating Moog fight if you guys manage to get to 400 members. So you're basically halfway to the stretch goal, which is incredible because it's Wednesday. You guys are crushing it. At best, you can make an argument that they are hurting competition by closing the studio. A win would be a fine, and it would be a hard road. I'm not sure what you mean, Alapark. A win would be a fine? Like fining them? Like making them pay a fine? Microsoft doesn't care. They'll literally break antitrust rules and be like, yeah, we'll pay the fine. I remember when AT&T said that. They said that they weren't going to do the new benefit rollout or whatever that they were going to be threatened with from the government. They're like, it's cheaper for us to pay the fine than to pay for everybody's benefits. Like, these companies are just going to weigh the cost, and they'll just pay the dadgum fine. Pushing out a massive game to chase currently popular show with studios that didn't make the original. What could go wrong? Right? I can only hope that Microsoft will mandate InXile and Obsidian to make Fallout inspired by Baldur's Gate 3's success, but I fear they will just become Bethesda Game Studios' support studio with no creative freedom. Zubair says Microsoft would buy the Foo Fighters and fire Dave Grohl for being too expensive. They'd replace him with a cheaper option and then wonder why the albums aren't selling. Clueless. It's worse than that, Zubair. It's almost like they would buy the Foo Fighters and be so frustrating to work with that Dave Grohl would quit. And then they would replace him with someone that doesn't know what they're doing or doesn't really want the job, and then the band doesn't want to work with this new front man, right? Like you lose so much when you lose people like that. Like I remember when Pete Hines retired, I told you guys, I said he's angry. He's leaving on a sour note, and losing him is a big deal because there are people at the company that probably really like working with him. And that's always going to trickle all the way down through the company. So anytime you lose your creative directors or your directors, like it's no surprise that when the guy left Tango, he took people with him. And when the guy left the Perfect Dark team, he took people with him. Like, wasn't there also somebody who left Playground and took people with them? Isn't that the team working on, that's the team working on Fable, isn't it? Like, he left and took people with him. How many times are we going to see that happen? That's like 3 different projects where a team lead or an not an executive, like a person in upper management or leadership walks and takes people with them. Why does that keep happening? That'd be the question that you should be asking. If Nadella would fire the leadership at Xbox, who do you think Nadella could get to replace them? All Nadella, if Satya and Nadella got rid of Phil and Sarah and Matt Booty, he would just replace them with more people to do what he wants. It doesn't matter who's in those seats. It doesn't. It's not just losing talent, it's losing teamwork and institutional expertise. You put a new me in this chat, how long would it take for them to get comfortable poking at Eugene? Right? JG from Space with 16 months of membership. For perspective, $375 million payouts of Bobby Kotick could pay for the salaries of Arkane Austin and Tango Gameworks employees combined for the next 17 and a half years. Corporatized to that degree, and what are you going to do? There was no way to get Bobby out of the building any other way. Vampire Noblesse left a comment on my video. If Phil doesn't see monetization potential from a franchise or a studio, it gets axed. Otherwise, hard to explain the madness. No. He mentioned woke. Woke isn't playing a role here. Profit is the only thing that matters to Microsoft. That's it. Profit. Everything's going to be driven by profit from this point on. It's very, very it's a very, very utilitarian machete. The machete that swings and lops the heads off of these companies and gets rid of them, it's a utilitarian machete. It has no ideology. It has no political or religious beliefs. It is a utilitarian thing. It's like, you don't make enough money, you're out. You're not big enough. The cost to keep you open isn't worth the potential profit that you might generate. Have a nice day. It's that simple. There's no agenda. There's no ideology at play here at all. It is profit, pure and simple. That's all that matters. Microsoft is in the room. They're the ones calling the shots now. It's why Phil's not saying anything. It's why that you're not gonna. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the last year for Phil. If you guys have not hit subscribe yet, do me a favor and do that. It's always interesting on these days where we talk about like the bad news from Xbox, how we see such a small amount of new subscribers. Like, so many of you are, I guess, like seething and not wanting to subscribe to the channel because you hate watching. It must be really hard to be on that side of things right now. It must be really hard. Nobly says Hi-Fi Rush was profitable, no, but no monetization potential. Oh, I don't know if it's that simple. No. I don't know if it's that simple, because here's the thing. If you're thinking that, oh, there's no monetization potential and that's why they're taking it out, that's why they're getting rid of it. No. No, they did have, there were whispers and there were rumors that Hi-Fi Rush missed sales targets, right? Now, again, I don't know what kind of sales targets you could have for a shadow drop Game Pass game. Like, what sort of sales did you expect to get? The lion's share of the people who played Hi-Fi Rush played it on Game Pass, which means they didn't buy it. I've said this, oh my gosh, I said this so many times last year. I said this so many times the year before. I said they need to foster an ecosystem of purchase. And what they should have done with Hi-Fi Rush is they should have dropped a game trial. I've continued to say Game Pass could foster an ecosystem of purchase of especially indie titles if they had an entire section called Indie Game Trials or something to that effect. And if people would have been able to play Hi-Fi Rush for 2 hours at no cost, and then it said, hey, if you're really enjoying this game, buy it. But the problem was, they were too far gone. They were too far gone with the Game Pass strategy at that point. There was no option. You continued to tell people day and date, day and date, day and date on Game Pass, day and date on Game Pass. And it's like the game trials probably wouldn't even have gotten off the ground because it was too late at that point. You can't give trials to customers who are used to full games for no out-of-pocket cost. I think you could do it, Zubair, if you started with indie titles. Because if you said, hey, we're going to start giving you a whole lot more games every month. Instead of giving you like 5 to 8 games a month, we're going to give you like 15 indie games every month in the form of a game trial. And you can only play them on Game Pass. And then you obviously give them a discount if they buy the game and they're a Game Pass holder. You'd have to slowly boil the frog and slowly turn back that tide and set the expectation that you'd have to make it additive, or you'd have to at least make it seem additive, that like, hey, we are adding this to Game Pass. You can now get game trials every month, so you're actually getting to try more new games, because many people, that's what they use Game Pass to do. They just try games. Look at Lies of P and the score that it has on Xbox. It's the lowest score for Lies of P, markedly lower than PlayStation and Steam. Why? Because a bunch of people tried it. Now, that's a great value to the consumer to try a game they would ordinarily, a game they would ordinarily never try. They would ordinarily never try a game like that, so they try it, they don't like it, and they give it a bad score. It's not a representation of Lies of P. It's a representation of when you foster an ecosystem of trying out games, which I think that's great for the consumer, but what it ends up turning into is it's bad for the games. That's why the achievement percentages are so low on Xbox, because nobody's finishing those games. They're just trying them out. It's freaking dollar menu buffet. It's like, well, I'll just try a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of this, and then they never go any further with it. Well, what's that game bringing to the table? As Phil said in his own email, he's like, well, I don't know how we judge the value of a game. Brooklyn Breed says the problem with that is that a lot of gamers on Xbox didn't even beat the first boss on Hi-Fi Rush. Exactly right. Now, how much you want to bet, though, Brooklyn, if you did a game trial and people that really liked it bought it, I bet you that achievement goes way up. Because once you've purchased a game, you're going to be a lot more motivated to be like, okay, I'm actually going to I'm going to go the distance with this. I dropped $20 on this. I want to beat it. I want to finish it. There is probably, I bet you, even on PlayStation, if you took a sample of 1,000 people who got Horizon on PlayStation Plus, and then you took 1,000 people that bought Horizon, I bet you the achievement percentages are drastically different comparatively. Like, the people that bought the game probably go way further and have much higher completion percentages on the achievements and the trophies than the people who just got it on a subscription. They're like, well, I never bought Horizon. It's on PS Plus. Let me check it out. I guarantee you it's higher for the people that actually buy it. You can't tell me they aren't self-sabotaging to go third party? Can you explain that for me? What do you mean? Your name is Xbox Fanboy. I love that. Monetization potential, stay, and the rest get axed was already hinted at the start of the Xbox series. So what you're saying, Rye, the noblesse. I think your name's Noblesse, right? The Noblesse, like the Noblesse. Anyways, I'm just gonna call you Rye. What you're getting at, Rye, is that they're only interested in games they can monetize ongoing. Is that what you're saying? Agree. My friend game shares Forbidden West with me, and I have no urgency to complete it, but I bought Zero Dawn and was focused in on that. I'm telling you, they broke so many fundamental psychological rules to have a good ecosystem of consumers. They broke all the rules. I remember when I worked at Singular Wireless, and I would have people come in, and they would have a really old phone. Like Oblige? Noblesse? That's how, more like less? Noblesse. Yeah, it's probably like Noblesse. Isn't that how you would say it? Anyways. Every time somebody came into Singular Wireless, and they were holding a really old phone, I knew it wasn't going to be a good exchange. I knew it wasn't going to be a good encounter with a customer. I knew it was going to be terrible. Do you want to know why? Because the older the phone, the longer they had it, which meant they got the phone at a time where you were treated like royalty. They were like, oh, you're getting a phone with us? Free car charger, free case, free massage, free haircut, free pat on the back, right? We'll even throw in a really nice hug. Like, they gave you everything whenever they were trying to establish a customer base. So what would happen is that person would walk in and say, I'm ready to get a new phone. No problem. You're definitely eligible to upgrade. That Nokia is a dinosaur. Let's get you into a new phone. And when it would come time to check out, and they would say, well, what do I get that's free? Why isn't the phone free? Why isn't the case free? Why isn't the car charger free? Why is it... Oh, I'll tell you why it's not free. Because now you're hooked. You need the phone now. Now you're not having to be convinced to get the phone. You need the phone now. And the customers would get very angry. Well, I'm a customer. I've been a customer for a really long time. Great. So, do you want the car charger or not? Do you want the case or not? Now, look at what that did. They gave that person a free case and car charger 7 years ago, and it stuck with them as like, you better do it again. I hope you didn't say that. No, I was a very good employee. I would say, I would level with people. I would be like, I would totally be honest. I'd say, yeah. I said, back then, the companies were doing everything they could to get you to sign up. I said, you've had the phone for a long time now. Now you kind of can't live without it. So there's less, they don't have to convince you that you need a cell phone. I would just level with people, and I think they appreciated the honesty. They would usually buy stuff from me because they're like, oh, you're right. Like, they understood. It was like they were trying to convince you to do this crazy newfangled thing called cell phone. Like, they were trying to convince you to do it. So that's how long it stuck with that person. So I want you to take that mentality of that person that was like, well, 7 years ago you gave me free stuff, so now you better give me more free stuff. What do you think happens when you foster an ecosystem full of consumers that get free stuff every month? What do you think that does? All those famous questions we see every time. Is it on Game Pass? I'll wait to play it on Game Pass. I can't believe you guys buy games. They just give us games over here. You guys are suckers. Imagine buying games at full price. Game Pass, baby. Day and date on Game Pass, baby. It fostered an entire culture that was proud to not spend money. It was free car chargers and free cases on a much higher rhythm and scale than, 6 years ago. Yo, Mass with 10 months and a VIP. When Phil came out with 4 games to PlayStation and Nintendo, he said the titles selected were for reasons, and my feel was, hi-fi was that it could grow the interest for a sequel. Seems so backwards to close Tango. Thank you so much, Mash. No, I think they were squeezing the last bit of profit out of that team before letting them go. That's what I think they were doing. They were saying, listen, we this is a good piece of property and it won't be that hard to port it, and it's a good game, and we're going to do this. We're going to make the last little bit of money. I mean, think about how cold that is. Buddy, that's cold. That 5 people die. Even for a guy like me, that's cold. Like, that's cold, right? Like, they basically said, thanks for your work on getting Hi-Fi ready for PlayStation and Nintendo. We're now shutting you down. That's cold as ice. They got the last drop out of that company before shutting them down. How does it feel to be this right? I think it's uniquely frustrating, Mash, because number one, it's nothing to celebrate. It's loss of good studios and loss of potentially great projects from them. That's terrible. That sucks. It's bad for them and bad for the industry. the other reason it's uniquely frustrating is to be mocked and jeered and called a pony for like how many months now, right? For 15 months, I've been attacked by that side. And now when I'm like, y'all were wrong about all of this, you get treated like, oh yeah, sure, be smug and say you were right. What the frick else am I supposed to say? You were wrong. There's nothing fun about that. There's nothing fun about any of this. It's like, this sucks. I found that clip, and I'll probably retweet it at some point, where I said, if I was in charge, I would have taken half of the $70 billion, I would have invested in my existing properties and studios, I would get my studios off the 18-month contractual policy and start making good games. That's what I said. That's what I believed in. I'm not going to be like, woohoo, let me throw confetti in the air, Gears of War is coming to PlayStation. Like, if that happens, I'm not going to be like, yay. I wanted them to invest in what they sold me. There's no celebration here. There's no parade. They're like, yay, we said studios would close down and we would get less projects in the market and loss of talent. Isn't this great? It's like predicting an earthquake. Right, it's like, yeah, we told you there was going to be an earthquake and you stayed and you got hurt and your car got damaged. It's like, that's not an enjoyable I told you so. Yeah, your leg's broken. A sign fell on it because you didn't listen. I was 100% wrong. This much I know, says MASH. I had faith in them. Poorly placed. This man lies. It's kind of fun to be right a bunch. Then you get street cred. Then you can start making up words and people will just assume they're real words. Sorry, what were we talking about? Lono was smurfing his account with Kill the Justice League predictions. Normal service has resumed. Yeah, I got that wrong. I did. I was wrong about Kill the Justice League. Misfired on that one. Yeah. Yeah, Mikey Barra, I don't know. I think Mikey Barra should just take a break from tweeting for a while, you know? Like, studios are closing, people are losing their jobs, and he's like, but Phil's a good guy, though. Like, I understood the spirit of what Mikey Barra was trying to do. You know, he was trying to basically say, like, you're all attacking Phil. It's like, this isn't Phil. Phil's not this bad, evil overlord. He probably feels terrible about this. But it just it just doesn't read the room very well. It's like, dude, people lost their jobs. Phil Spencer will be okay. You know, he's on a boat somewhere taking a break from Twitter. He'll be all right. A dark, bleak future lies ahead for the video game industry. The golden age of gaming doesn't last forever, and we may be seeing the end of days for the industry. Why? Because Xbox is failing yet again? They've been failing for 20 years. It didn't hurt the industry. It didn't hurt the industry the last 20 years. We've gotten great games and great pieces of hardware from PlayStation, as well as Nintendo. What are you talking about? Gaming's not in trouble. Xbox, studios under Xbox, they're in trouble. I don't have any concerns about the Nintendo Switch 2 and what Nintendo has planned. I don't have concerns about the PS5 Pro and the future first-party PlayStation studios. I don't have any concerns about those two platforms, like, at all. I don't. Like, what? Xbox does not represent the industry. They listen to me. Xbox almost fell out of the industry. Twice. Kevin, he hit me twice. Like, they almost fell out of the industry twice. I called for help twice. Not a few. What do you need? Like, almost twice. It's like the 10-year anniversary for when they almost shut Xbox down. They stayed alive for 10 years, and now their only course of action is mass acquisitions, become a publisher, and gut any studio that's too small. That's their only way in the industry, to stay in the industry. They've almost fallen out of the industry twice. So to be like, oh, the industry's in trouble and the industry's changing, you don't know what the frick you're talking about if you're saying that. So many talking heads, so many podcasters are out here saying that. That isn't true. Xbox's failures, Xbox's paltry attempts to get into the industry and have success is not an indication of where the industry's headed. They're barely staying in the industry. This was their only choice. Big Daddy Microsoft had to bail them out. If Xbox's parent company was anybody of smaller stature or size, Xbox would have been gone long ago. They'd be another Dreamcast. You know that's true. If they didn't have Big Daddy Microsoft to bankroll them and to bail them out of this situation, they'd have been gone a long time ago. Any parent company of smaller size, like Nintendo or PlayStation, like Sony, if their parent company was Sony size, they'd have been gone. The only reason they're surviving is because they got a dad with a fat wallet who could bail them out. That's the only reason Xbox is still around. Fuzzy with 29 months in VIP, that listen to me had suspiciously long pause after it, almost like it was missing a word. What's good, Fuzzy? And Harbinger gifts a member and takes us to 52. I'm tired of influencers that are trying to reflect Xbox's problems to all the other publishers and platforms. You shut your mouth and you talk about Dreamcast. When your parent company isn't big enough to bail you out, you own your failures and you close up shop. That's what would have happened to Xbox if they didn't have Microsoft as their parent company. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why we always called it little brother syndrome. It was just little brother syndrome. It's like Xbox is so far behind and so not dominant, like, at all. And there was always this incredible sense of pride and swagger in the Xbox crowd, and it never made any sense. It was like, why are you guys so confident? What are you confident in? Zubair says, you know what I keep thinking? In sports, we have poverty franchises who bring themselves to believe silly things just to have hope. Yes, the game is devaluing quarterbacks and defense. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I knew, Lone Wolf. I caught the gist. Listen to me. Yeah, with the swear word, I know. Stone Spire gifts a member. I know what Stone Spire is going to do. He's setting up. I'm just going to add 3 right now. I'm taking it to 55. Stone Spire is going to do 3 singles. He's asking for somebody to do the 20 bomb to 75. Thank you so much, Stone Spire. You guys will be set up so beautifully. If you do basically 100 today and tomorrow, that'd be 200 on top of the 136. That'd be 336. You'd be so close to the stretch. Jiminy Christmas, you guys are crushing it this week. Resident Recon says, it seems like this is happening across all industries. A buddy and I were talking about this past weekend. It's infuriating that companies buy up things and shut them down. It makes no sense. But it's not. It's not happening across... Well, you're saying all industries. Okay, sure. But in gaming, Nintendo isn't doing this, and PlayStation isn't doing this. And people are like, oh, they shut down a studio. Yeah, they shut down a studio that hasn't done anything in how long? PlayStation, along with all other tech companies, had to figure out ways to shrink costs. They're all doing it. So what do? They targeted companies that hadn't done anything for a while. Or they had studios let go, 25 people. Like, that is not what's happening right now. It's the elimination of competition. Right, you should have less game companies in the market to make good product. Embracer as well. Yeah, Embracer's situation is very different, though. Embracer had a business deal go belly up on them. And that's why they had to suddenly start, basically selling property off, selling studios off, or shutting studios down. It's a very different scenario. Also, it's not relevant to this subject because we had to listen to absolute buffoons all last year about this. We had to listen to people who clearly had zero credentials to talk about an acquisition of this size. And they cheered for it. And after this acquisition closed, they started listing more companies they wanted Microsoft to buy. And now all they're saying is, this is terrible, this is bad, crocodile tears for the developers. And some of them are even trying to claim that like they never wanted this to happen to begin with. Sure. Like, that's why it's frustrating to hear the now, I guess, they've all woken up to the fact that, like, this was a really bad idea. It's a really bad idea to have a company do this to all these studios and to all this property. And you cheered for it because of your brand loyalty. You didn't cheer for it because you analyzed the viability of it or the quality of it. You cheered for it because you were a fan of the green brand. That's why I don't care when people they want to invoke Embracer. Well, Embracer's doing it. Did anybody cheer for what Embracer did leading up to this moment? Did they have cheerleaders and podcasts and videos and absolute buffoons breaking down the FTC trial and the facts and basically mocking their own regulator and basically attacking them and telling them they're stupid? Your tax dollars at work. You're darn right that's my tax dollars at work. They said, this is bad. This isn't good for the consumer. This kind of stuff never goes well for the consumer. You lose, there are less options in the market. You're consolidating power. It'll be good for the employees. Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure it'll be good for the employees. Look how great it is. Yeah, I don't remember anybody cheering on Embracer buying publishers. Exactly, Gavin. Returnal wasn't a huge seller, and they're working on their next game. Astrobot was a small IP, and Team Asabi is rumored to release a new Astro game this year. Right, and see, here's the difference. Here's the difference, Jack. When you buy a smaller studio and you invest in that studio to then make another project, this is when Jim Ryan referred to that virtuous cycle. There's a more direct one-to-one of, you made this thing, it made this much money, this is how much came from us. We can have a very clear, measurable picture of what we have got out of you, what we have received from you. Therefore, we can now very carefully invest for the next project. Now, when you buy a parent company that has all these studios and pieces of property underneath of it, the entire game changes, especially when you're taking that property and putting it on Game Pass. Phil Spencer admits in an email they didn't even have a proper or well-built way to assess games' value and to assess what a game brings to the table. They're just out here spending money. And that's why I keep saying, Microsoft walked in the room and was like, we'll help you assess the value. Measure the cost of operations at the company. How much is it going to cost to keep Tango and Arkane Austin open? How much every year, okay? Now do projections on how much revenue and profit that company is going to bring to the table every fiscal year. You have your answer. There's no mystery here. You don't need an Excel spreadsheet. They don't bring enough to the table. Get rid of them. You've completely removed the one-to-one of they built a game, they sold the game for this much, here's how much we have to potentially reinvest. If Xbox would have never built an ecosystem of non-purchase, if they wouldn't have gone so full with Game Pass, a game like Hi-Fi Rush, shadow dropping and going viral, what do you think would have happened to the sales of that game? It likely would have been pretty good. We've seen what happens to a game going viral. Everybody's praising it. Everybody's excited about it. There's entire companies that have had to change their plans. Like Among Us had to cancel their sequel because their game went viral and they were making so much money on the first game. They halted production of the sequel and they've done nothing but invest in the first game. So when your game has virality, but no purchase required for 25 million people, you've murdered the economic potency of that game, and therefore you basically stabbed the developers in the stomach and nobody realized it until this year. You robbed their property, their game, of economic potency. It was like, it went viral. Everybody talked about it. It got great scores. It won an award, and you weren't selling it. 25 million people didn't have to buy it. It has no economic potency in the gaming market, and nobody listened. It was all of us kept saying this. We're like, this is not a sustainable strategy. You can't keep building great games and then just throwing them on Game Pass and not selling them. It doesn't make any sense. And we kept being told, we were like, oh no, they make enough from the 25 million Game Pass subscribers every month to fund these studios and to fund these games. Well, I guess not. I guess not. I guess they didn't make enough from Game Pass to keep these studios open. You're like 35 and crying about gaming. I'm 42. I appreciate the compliment, and I don't know. If I had to guess your age, mentally 7, you know? And you're in my chat for some reason. Potency equals monetization for Xbox. Yeah, imagine if Helldivers was only on a subscription service. There's no economic potency then. The millions of people that are on that subscription service don't have to buy the game. It was kind of like a tech startup. You have 75 million users. How are you going to make money? Oh, no idea. We'll worry about that later. He's more like 45. And I'm 50. And I can kick. How do they show their displeasure with this trash practice? They can't vote with their wallet. Oh, that Josh, I remember when 30 and So Gaming made that point to Doc Dark on my podcast. It was one of the most beautiful light bulb moments I've ever seen. Doc was extremely upset about Starfield being at 30 FPS, and 30 and So Gaming was like, what are you going to do? You're not buying it. You would play it on Game Pass. You have no buying power. You have no buying power. What are you going to do? Well, I'm not going to download that. That'll show them. I'll keep paying for Game Pass, and I won't download this game. I'll really teach them a lesson. You took away all your buying power. How Hi-Fi Rush kills the narrative that Xbox Game Pass hurts game sales or is unsustainable. Here's the thing I feel bad about for Jez Corden when he wrote that article. Do you want to know why Jez wrote that article? Let me defend Jez for a second. I don't agree with him a lot of the times. We don't see eye to eye. I still think it'd be dope to do regular shows with someone like him, because like we're on opposite ends of the spectrum on a lot of things, and I think that makes for entertaining television. But let me defend the man. Do you want to know why he wrote that headline? Do you want to know why he wrote that article? Because of what Aaron Greenberg said. All Jez was doing was echoing what he was told from somebody that, for as far as he could tell, he should trust. Well, maybe not after the standard 60 FPS output tweet. You know, maybe he shouldn't have trusted Aaron Greenberg. So maybe you could fault him for having too much trust in Aaron Greenberg. But he asked, Jez Corden went to the public and was like, how do you measure the success of Hi-Fi Rush? Why? Why was he asking that? Because Jeff Grubb had indicated that Hi-Fi Rush hadn't hit sales targets. So Jez is like, well, how do you measure a game like this? They shadow dropped it on Game Pass. And Aaron Greenberg replied and said, it's a hit every metric we want to see it hit. We are extremely satisfied with this game. So what does Jez do? He writes an article and he was like, well, this completely destroys the narrative that Game Pass hurts games or hurts sales or hurts their success or whatever phrasing he wanted to use. And guess what? He was wrong. He was wrong. Now, I can't fault the man for being wrong when he's given bad information. If someone gives me bad information and I go and make a video, and then we turn around and find out that the information is bad, well, come on, how can you fault me for that? I had somebody tell me this. I had somebody give me this information. I thought this information was reliable. Heavy is good. Heavy is reliable. Like, I thought it was good. Like, if I'm him, I'm ticked because it's like, you made me look like an absolute fool out here. You said this, I write an article, and it's not true. I'm still buying Xbox and PlayStation disc video games. I just went out to my stores in town to spend some money on discs. Why are you adding that to the conversation? Are you pushing back on something? If the source is supposed to be reliable, you can't really do much. Yeah, I can't fault him for writing that article. I can't. It's like, what was he supposed to be? What was he supposed to say? Oh, I don't know. Are you lying to me, Aaron Greenberg? No, he's going to write the article. He writes for Windows Central, for crying out loud. He's like, here's somebody from Xbox telling us that Hi-Fi Rush killed it. I can't fault him for saying that or writing that. It's like, that wasn't his fault. Yeah, Aaron Greenberg, that's as good as Phil Spencer saying it at that point in time. That's somebody directly from the Xbox company. Why are we spelling disc with a K? Yeah, I don't know. You thought Greenberg was reliable? Listen, I could see somebody being like, okay, Aaron Greenberg said what he said about 60 FPS standard output, and again, not fault Greenberg for saying that. Why would I not fault Aaron Greenberg for saying that? Very simple. Aaron Greenberg is not the tech engineer team that built the consoles. All he's doing is echoing what he's been told. I don't know who we go to and who we fault or who we blame, but those videos, those promotional materials where they were talking about the Series X and the Series S, somebody somewhere really got it wrong about just what those consoles were going to be able to achieve. So it's like, I know we like to mock Aaron Greenberg's tweet and he deleted it, but it's like, if I give that man a fair shake and I really think about it, it's like all he was doing was parroting what he was told. He's just a marketing guy. He's just a face. He's like, okay, thank you for the information. Then he tells it to you. It's like a community manager. If a community manager for a video game is told X, Y, and Z from the team, the dev team, and walks out and says, this is what's going on, and it turns out to not be true, it's like that person's, again, only as good as the information that they're given. So sure, Xbox now has this terrible history of saying one thing and delivering something completely different. I don't think Aaron Greenberg was like, I'm willfully lying right now. I don't think he was like, yep, time to deceive the public. Can't wait to type this tweet. I don't think so. I don't think he thought in his mind, oh, I'm lying right now. I think that's what he thought, because that's what everybody, the engineers and the tech team and the marketing team for the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S, they were promising the moon. What's Aaron Greenberg supposed to do? Be skeptical and be like, I don't know. I mean, these engineers could be lying. He's literally just parroting the marketing talking points at that point in time. And it all turned out to be not true. They set their Xbox Series S video to private, and then Aaron Greenberg deleted his tweet, and they've moved on with a completely different marketing strategy for Xbox. Oh, no, it damages trust. Oh, for sure, Josh. Yes, for sure. It 100% damages trust. Why do you think these guys, what are these guys supposed to say now? Seriously. Why do you think Phil Spencer's being quiet? Phil Spencer went out on the front lines, apologized for Redfall, defended Arkane Austin, said he was confident in whatever they built next, and they were committed to make Redfall better. You think Phil Spencer wants to talk to the public right now? You got headlines saying Microsoft has no plans to close Arkane Austin. Do you think Phil Spencer wants to come out and talk to the public right now? No. I wouldn't want to be any of these guys. I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to be any of these guys. They had the slats kicked out from underneath of them. They were out here saying all this stuff, and it's like, oh, they lied, they lied, they lied. I'm telling you right now, I don't think Phil did that kind of funny interview and thought he was lying. I think he thought, we'll recover from this, we'll bounce back, we'll get these studios into a better place. And Microsoft said, yeah, a better place is them to be gone. That's what I think happened. Oh, you love both Xbox and PlayStation. That's what you were saying. Yeah, you're good, man. I just wasn't sure what you were... I wasn't sure if you were pushing back on like what somebody said, or like if you were debating a point in chat or something. Phil is not in charge. Yeah, their showcase is next month. Oh, it completely changes predictions about that showcase, doesn't it? Doesn't it? You still think the blue heart? You still think that blue heart that Sarah Bond put on her tweet? You still think that was there to represent Blizzard? No. That showcase is going to be completely different. If the strategy is shifting, if what Matt Booty has indicated, if that's where things are headed, then that showcase is not going to be like, here's all the games that are only coming to Xbox. That game showcase is going to be about games going everywhere. Like, I really don't think that the goal of that showcase is at all focused on like, oh, well, here's this game, it's an Xbox exclusive. Like, I just don't think that's going to be the focus. Now, I still think they're going to stress play it day one on Game Pass. I still think they're going to be saying that. I would not be shocked or surprised at all if the showcase, though, if it includes games coming to PlayStation and Nintendo. Because it's like, at this point, if this is the strategy shift, if this is the shift and this is the changes, this is the alteration to the plan, as far as like you're going to close studios and you're focused on the big pieces of property, they're functioning like a publisher at that point. So the showcase, there'd be no reason to make the showcase about Xbox exclusivity or Xbox really anything. They're going to have an entire section or direct, it's a follow-up segment just for Call of Duty. They're going to leverage their property. What else would the blue heart imply? I think it implied PlayStation. You think it'll be hosted by Sarah Bond only? I think it'll be Phil Spencer's. I think this is Phil Spencer's last hurrah. I think this will be his last year of, he'll do Summer Game Fest, he'll do the showcase, he'll do Gamescom, and then I think he's done. I think he's got 1 year left in the tank, and then he's going to want to get the heck out. I don't think he wants to be... I'm just guessing, but I can't imagine doing what he had to do last year, like apologizing for Redfall and going through the ringer and having to do podcasts and interviews about how everything's changing and how PlayStation's no longer a competitor. I don't think he's going to want to stick around much longer, because I think everything is going to be the exact opposite of what he was attempting to do and build, and it's like he's just going to leave. He'll retire. In 11 days, Hellblade 2 is coming, and there's barely any promotion of it. I think Ninja Theory is next on the chopping block. Well, Ninja Theory is doing like a post every day, are they not? I don't know. Everybody's worried about Ninja Theory and Hellblade 2 now, and I'm like, well, I don't know. He has an interview scheduled with IGN after the showcase. Yeah, he's going to be involved. The Xbox community is in shambles, and it's not your fault this time, Lono. It never was my fault. Yeah, Infinite, I see your question in Discord. I'm going to say probably. It never was my fault. You think he's going to leave, or do you think he'll get kicked? I don't think they would want to kick him. I think you'd want to at least keep him at the company. He knows a lot of people in the industry. He's greased the wheels for stuff with Square Enix and Japan. I don't think you'd want to lose Phil Spencer. I think Phil Spencer's going to want out. Again, that's just my gut. That's just my gut instinct. I think Xbox and Microsoft would want to keep him around. He knows the industry. Like I said, he's greased the wheels for stuff with Square Enix and Japan, and like I don't think you'd want to have him leave. I think he's made some really, really good strides for the company. As bad as Xbox is doing, I don't think you'd want to lose his expertise. A 2-spot from True Witty. What if Elder Scrolls 6 doesn't sell well because of Todd and Game Pass? You serious? That dude has to be joking. Don't you see the genius of Phil Spencer? Phil is playing chess. You guys do realize Phil saved Xbox. Phil is still saving Xbox. No one can blame Phil for Xbox's failures. I mean, all I've ever said is that Phil deserves respect for keeping Xbox in the fight. I don't think he saved them. I think he kept them from sinking, which I guess you could say is saving. I don't think he's put them on a good path, though. I think he's put them on a path where they're going to have to walk back a lot of things. Lono, you have made plenty of Xbox fans cry and suffer. Some have become your biggest hate watchers. Oh, I can always tell when I have a lot of hate watchers. Lion, when we have like 1,000 viewers and I only get like 20 new subscribers, I'm like, oh. I know who a lot of you are. I don't care. I'll take it. Oh. I don't know how you say Ninja Theory isn't in trouble when one of their founders left. He left for a reason. It's scary. I didn't say they're not in trouble. I just said that they are marketing the game to a certain degree. I wasn't saying they're not in trouble. Why do you think Phil still has his job? Again, I think Phil still has his job because of his expertise and his experience. I don't think you can call him like a genius and say like, oh, he's playing chess. But I think you can say, look, the man kept Xbox in the fight, and I think Microsoft probably greatly appreciates that, because they would have shuttered the division 10 years ago, and they wouldn't have the foothold in publishing right now that they have. They wouldn't have a foothold in potentially building a cloud ecosystem and mobile. They wouldn't. Yeah, I'm trying not to think about Ninja Theory. That's going to be really upsetting. That's going to be really irritating. Because he's buddy-buddy with the fan base. Oh, I don't know. I actually do think they're going to have him drift from the front lines. Like, if Phil Spencer stays at Xbox, I think they let Sarah Bond become the face, right? She's younger. She's good looking. You want to have a good looking person out on the front lines. I think it helps. I really do. And I think even like Phil's getting a little older. So I think it's like, yeah, get him off the front lines. I also think you take him off the front lines because I don't think the Xbox community is that trusting or fond of him right now. I think they're irritated. It's like you did an interview and you made it seem like Tango was going to be, you made it seem like, Arkane Austin was going to be okay. And you guys were out here bragging about Tango and Hi-Fi Rush. Like, I think that I don't think they're going to want Phil out on the front lines anymore. No, Phil is good looking. I actually have always thought he's a real sharp looking guy. He always had like a nice jacket on, like a t-shirt, and he looked kind of hip. I always thought he did a good job with the showcases, right? But he's getting a little older, He doesn't have quite the same spring chicken energy that he used to. And, I think the industry in that kind of a job, it can age you. And I think when you walk Sarah Bond out there, I think people like her. I do. She's charming. She's very pretty. She's well-spoken. She's very intelligent. She's a great front-facing person for the company. She checks like every single box that you would want. She's super experienced. She's super intelligent. She speaks well. She has great presence. She's got on camera, she's got a history of being on camera and being, right out in front, doing the thing, putting the presentations together. She's great to be the new front face of Xbox. And she doesn't have this like sort of sullied history where, oh, you said this. Like I'm right now, the Xbox community is pretty angry at Phil Spencer. Yeah, she also has a really cool name, Sarah Bond. Like, that's just a dope name. That's awesome. That James Bond's sister? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just cool. Xbox isn't bleeding enough to worry Microsoft too much, especially when they don't care much about gaming right now. Their focus is on AI. Yeah, she doesn't have the history. She's a better liar than Phil. She's sharp, isn't she? She's had a couple things she said recently, and I'm like, oh, I was like, you're sneaky. She's really sharp. I mean, I'm telling you right now, I think she's going to do a better job at the doublespeak than Phil ever did. She's really good at it. You got to listen real close. You're like, wait, what did she say? What did she actually say? Telling you, man, she's going to do the same thing he always did. Going to say exactly what's needed in the moment, and it'll be rich with doublespeak. Yeah, Phil was really good at it, but she said a couple of things recently, and there's been a couple of quotes, and I'm like, he's a master. She's no longer the apprentice, dude. That thing she had about the backwards compatibility, I was like, oh, that was slick. That was really slick. Lono, the reality is Xbox will be fine as a publisher. This is just another step to be leaner and focus on games that will sell well. Exactly, Lion. I've been saying that. To me, sales equal games people want to play. Also, Sarah can get it. Oh, I think she's going to take over all the front facing stuff for the most part. I think Phil will be present at the showcase. They've been tag teaming the showcases for a while, but I think she'll probably get more. Maybe she'll get more screen time than him. She's deleting tweets now. Oh, I'm sure she is. I honestly think they should just not delete the tweets. Just wear it. It makes it worse when you delete the tweet. It means that you saw it, you were aware of it, and you got rid of it. Like, I don't think they should delete tweets. Just wear it. Like, you were praising Tango. You were praising Arkane Austin. Like, you expressed confidence in these, I don't think you understood the last part. Oh, what did I miss? All the fake... This guy left a comment on my video. All the fake tears from Sony fanboys who daily celebrate declining Xbox sales and would be dancing in the streets if Xbox closed down tomorrow. Honestly, don't give 2 cents about your sad state of Xbox closing and Des losing jobs. I said all last year I wanted Xbox to change course. You don't even know me. You don't know what I think. You don't know what I think. I wanted them to change course for the last 4 years. Anytime they came up, it was like, well, I would say the first year I didn't feel that way. In 2021, I didn't feel that way. In 2022, there was a growing sentiment that I was like, this is not at all what I wanted. What's going on? Where are the games? When we get to the end of 2022 into 2023, it's like my entire tune changed. I was like, I don't know what you guys are doing. And then 2023 was like the death knell for me. I was like, I don't like this company. I don't like what they've done. I don't have confidence in their future. I went through a complete change of my perspective of the company. I'm not celebrating this. I'm not happy about this. I'm not gleeful. Like, this is not a good fight. This is not a good win for gamers. Making sure there's nothing I'll close and reopen. This is my point, that the Xbox Series X should be your first system because it had the disk drive. Should be the main system. Well, right, but it's not the main system. Xbox deprioritized it. Phil Spencer's so quiet, he's trying to come up with another lie. There's no other option but to be quiet. Like, what's he supposed to say? Like, they come out with their little glib, this was a hard decision nonsense. No one frickin' wants to hear that from you. Do you know what I'm saying? Nobody wants to hear that from you. Like, he can't say anything right now. He can't. There's no world where he can, like, come out and say the right thing to make everybody feel better. Whatever he says is just gonna be ridiculed and attacked. Like, him being quiet, him being silent, makes perfectly good sense. Like, he has nothing to gain by speaking right now. It's like, what's he gonna say? It's a really hard day for all of us at Xbox as we do something that we said we weren't gonna do. Like, what? There is no tweet. You know? There just isn't. There's no tweet, there's no comment, there's no apology, there's no statement to make. It's just no, just be quiet, Phil. There's no reason to say anything right now. You know, it's unfortunate, but it's true. Yeah, I don't expect him to say anything. And if he does, I mean, who cares? Like, what difference does it make? All problems are due to Sony. My flight was delayed 2 hours last week. The flight food was cold and the movie playing was from Sony Studios. Coincidence? Connor says, Mash, you're talking BS. He's clearly joking. Imagine being at Obsidian right now, or in Exile with Avowed and Clockwork Revolution, even Ninja Theory with Hellblade, seeing the news, zero marketing for Hellblade. Yeah, the whole thing is... My bonus last year would have paid their salaries for a few years, but I'm sorry we had to do this. That's right. That's right. It's like, yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay. Give me 1 second here. Stone Spire set up the 55 out of 75. He was hoping somebody would take that 20 bomb. If nobody's going to take the 20 bomb, if you guys want to quickly run through and do a bunch of 5 bombs and dunk it up to 75, I will owe you guys 5 more members. We are going to shift gears here in just a second. We're going to be checking out Hades 2 in early access. I meant to play, and Mash does it with a 20 bomb right on target and right on time as I was saying it. We're going to be checking out Hades 2 in early access, and you guys are the absolute best, just crushing the goal this week. I think you guys are going to make me fight Moog in Elden Ring before I leave. I would much rather play that VR dancing game, but it looks like you guys are going to make that an impossibility, because I think we may be right on the doorstep. We had what? Thursday, what's that? So you guys are now well past 200. DK Bager is the agent of chaos, and he pushes us past 75 to 76, now setting our sights on the next milestone. Every 25, I give 5, so I owe you guys 5 right now for the 75 milestone. Thank you so much, DK Bager. And, yeah, we'll just set this for that. Yeah, Clockwork does look good. I'm going to gift the members that I owe you when we get over to this new stream. just as like a thank you to the people that come over. It's a great way to, you're more likely to get them anyway. The more content you engage with on the channel, you're more likely to get a gifted member. So the more often you watch, the more often you subscribe. True SSJ Havoc says, dang it, DK Beggar, thank you for the 2 spot. True SSJ Havoc. Okay. All right, there we go. True SSJ Havoc does one as well and takes us to 77. All right, I'm going to switch the thumbnail on this stream that we're in right now. If you guys go back and watch the ongoing disaster upload of my breakdown of this, I greatly appreciate that. That video is doing very well. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel like this. As a reminder, as I said, I will be out of town next week. Streams will resume the week that Hellblade 2 comes out, which is the 20th. No, I don't have any interest in V Rising. Like, I liked it, I showcased it, but it's not my kind of game. It just isn't my kind of game. So, okay. Looking at getting to V Rising for your Legion. Oh, yeah? I liked it. It's an addicting little game. I can see why people like it. Oh, that's the wrong capture card. There we go. I'll put the daily goal up so you guys can see it. All right, I am going to spam a link in chat, and when you guys come over to this new stream, make sure you smash the like button. And we're going to check out Hades for a little bit, and then we will end up going to the writer's room. So it's a great time. It's a great time to support the channel and be a regular watcher of the channel. There we go. I'll go ahead and tweet that out that we're going to be checking this out. I'll spam a link in chat as well as put the link in Discord. I will also redirect. I'll gift the 5 members when we get over there. Okay. Yeah, the Lego Fortnite Star Wars thing, I didn't get the chance to check it out with my kiddos. Okay. We were wanting to, but they had games they wanted to play. Thanks so much for checking out this video. Diving in to Hades Early Access. This is Hades 2 Early Access gameplay. I have played the first game. I liked it quite a bit, but back then I wasn't as into rogues as I am now. Returnal is one of my all-time favorite games, so be sure to check that out on Steam if you've never played it before, or check it out on PlayStation if you've never played it before. If you like rogues, especially you guys on Steam that like rogues, Returnal didn't get a fair shot because it uses Epic Online Store for co-op or whatever, and people thought it was the Epic Game Store, so check that out. But I want to check out Hades 2. Hit like, share, subscribe. We talked about Xbox earlier today and just the ongoing disaster there. I'm going to end that video and redirect people over. Thank you to everybody who supported that stream and that upload. We do daily uploads and live